Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first video of our agenda formatting best practices guide. Today, as you saw in the guide, we will be working with Microsoft Word 2013. Not to worry if you're not using this version, as Microsoft Word has all the functionality, I believe all the way back to 2003. So anything 2003 or later, you should be able to accomplish anything that you see here today. It just may be in a different place. First and foremost, when we're talking about agenda formatting, let's jump to some standard formatting practices that I think are very valuable. First and foremost, page layout. Margins in later versions of Microsoft Word are automatically set to normal, which is denoted by the 1-inch margins all around, top, bottom, left, and right. In Office 2003 and earlier, they used to use left and right margins of 1.25 inches. And personally, I just feel it's a little bit, poor use of space overall within the document. I feel that with the normal 1-inch, or even if you go down to the moderate, which reduces the left and right margin to about 3/4 of an inch, you typically maintain a good level of readability. But since you have more width on each page, you're able to, basically fit more information on less pages, which is always helpful. So for purposes of this video, we're going to go ahead and switch to the moderate settings. That's inch on the top and bottom and 3/4 of an inch on the left and right. Now let's go ahead and jump into the best practices that we outlined previously in the guide. So the first thing we're going to take a look at are the headers and footers. Now, obviously, there's multiple ways that you can actually browse to them. I prefer the approach of just simply double-clicking up here, and it'll automatically launch the header and footer tools. Now, a brief note on headers and footers. All too often, I see people create agenda documents where they have their header information and even potentially their meeting information for the specific, meeting body, meeting location, venue, meeting date and time. A lot of time people don't use headers, period. They just simply put everything in the standard body, maybe come in and center and type in, their city name, and basically put this information within the first page. The header information, it's really powerful in terms of how you can separate the information. It applies some different formatting in terms of, the space from the edge of the page. So if you actually have a header, if you want to put a logo or something like that in there, I definitely recommend using the header function within Microsoft Word. And again, to do that in Word 2013, we're just going to simply go up in the upper area here and double click, and that will open the header right off the bat. Now there's a plethora of options here that we can manipulate, and we'll address some of these. Some of these we're not even going to deal with as we don't need to get a good looking agenda document. But first and foremost, before I begin, I always like to stress you want to actually check the different first page, as that's what we're going to set up here. It's important to do this first because Microsoft, in their infinite wisdom, has made it such that if I were to go ahead and create everything here and then click different first page, it's actually not going to make the change. I'm going to have to redo it. It'll actually push all that information to the second page. So before you begin, click different first page, and then the first page will be different than the second page for both the headers and footers, which we will need, as you'll see in a moment. Now, when working within the header, I actually prefer to place a logo or some, city seal, your school district, seal, logo for your, local utility district, whatever organization it is. Now, within the header, typically I like to align left to logo and then the rest of the information about the organization on the right-hand side. Now, although Microsoft Word will let you with tabs and different breakpoints, within a single area, align something on the left and something on the right, I've actually found it's a lot easier if we simply insert a table. In this case, I'm actually going to deal with 3 columns. And on the left here, we're going to go ahead and insert a picture. And here I'm just going to go ahead and select our AgendaPal logo, for example. Note it's a little large. We can go ahead and resize it as we see fit. Now, don't be too worried. A lot of people initially see this and say, wait a minute, I don't want this table and the outline around the table. We're going to remove this information later, so it's really not going to be an issue. In the center here, I'm going to go ahead and center within this cell. And we're going to go ahead and type City Council meeting, and we're just going to put a placeholder for our date. We can go ahead and change this each time we actually move in and create our agenda using this template. Actually want that bolded, and let's go ahead and just put the font a little bit larger than what we're going to use for the rest of the document. Now, as you can see, although we're centered from the left to the right, we're not actually aligned in the middle, and I'd like this to be aligned in the middle. So we're going to go ahead and select this information. And here, it's not in your standard Home tab. You actually have to go over to Table Tools Layout, and you'll see here we can align various areas of the actual cell. So I'm going to align this dead center, both vertically and horizontally. While we're there, we're going to go ahead and jump over to the right, and this I want to align right, but have it aligned in the middle as well, so we get the aesthetics that we're looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and type in City of Anywhere. Now we're going to go ahead and click on the little arrow icon that you see here to select the entire table, and we want to go over to the Home tab, and this is where we have our borders. I want to go ahead and eliminate all the borders. We just simply select no borders. You'll still see them by this dotted line while you're actually working in the document, so you'll know it's there, but it actually won't print when you go to print your agenda or save it as a PDF, for example. Now that I have that general header information, we can go ahead and move forward. In many cases, you may want to actually include additionally, potentially a line that separates the first page of your document from the header. It's completely up to you, but you can do it within the table itself, or you can simply, anywhere within that header area. I'm going to go ahead and where the cursor is, add a line below it, and it'll go ahead and add that line for us there. So we have a bit of a separation between the header and the body of the document. All right, so we've created our first page header, which is our general city seal or organization's logo seal, and then the additional information that we have for the council meeting. Again, we'll fill in the date once we actually start preparing an agenda for a specific date. Now we're ready to move to the first page footer. So to do this, with the header footer still activated, simply scroll down and you can click in the footer area. Again, if for any reason, you're closed out of the header and footer tool, from either the header or footer, you can simply double click. It'll automatically open in that specific area up in the header or in the footer. All right, so let's jump into the first page footer and discuss what we could potentially put here. In many cases, it may simply be nothing. You leave the first page footer blank, which is perfectly fine. However, if you have some specific information like an ADA disclaimer where people with hearing impairment can actually request special hearing devices or anything standard that's going to be on every single agenda, mainly this would be disclaimers, ADA, whatever disclaimer you might have to legally actually put in your agenda document. It's a good place to put it on the first page footer because it'll always be there on the first page of the document and it won't disrupt the general flow of the overall document. So with that, we'll go ahead and copy over some text for an ADA disclaimer. Now I've copied a general ADA statement to my clipboard, so I'm just going to go ahead and paste it in here. This is some standard language that various organizations may use. One key thing to note is if you're going to put something in the footer, and specifically if it's heavy text, you want to make sure that you make the text look different so it doesn't look like it's obviously part of the standard document. Now, what I typically like to do is make this italicized. In this case, also I like to actually put a border around this to truly separate it out from the rest of the text. You can imagine if we have similar text here, people might think it's part of that text. Again, just from an aesthetic perspective, it's best to make it look different if it truly is different and the intent of it is different. So to do that, we're going to go ahead and select our options here. I don't like any of these standard options, so what we want to do is select the borders and shading option so that we can get a little more creative. You could select various styles here. For example, I typically like to do a double line. You can do double, triple, just to, at least separate it out. So we'll go ahead and click OK here, and we see that we have a double line around that, and we've italicized the text, so it's obviously different from the rest of the document. So as of now, we've created our first page header and first page footer. Now we want to move on to the second page, but if you scroll around, you can't get to the second page. Not an issue, it's simply because the second page currently doesn't exist. So I'm going to go ahead and close the header and footers to get to the standard document. And I'm going to click on the Insert tab and then click on Page Break here, just so we can jump to the next page. Now you see it's brought us to the second page. And because we set the first page to be different, we'll see that it's actually blank because we haven't defined the second, third, and however many pages we might have. The first page is different from the rest. So we're going to double click on the second page header, and we can start defining what we want there. Now, just for purposes of clarity, because we're dealing with public meetings, whatever information that we have here, the city council meeting for a specific date, I typically like to repeat in the header on the second page. Preference of mine is having it left justified, but again, you can do it any way that you want. So here I'm going to go ahead and say city council meeting. And we'll update this date later. Again, along the same lines of what I said earlier about the first footer that we put in here, if it's separate, we want to make it look different. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and make this bold and also hit enter a couple of times just to make the header portion larger. That way the text of the body of the document will start down here. And it's obviously not going to be confused with this city council meeting and date that will appear on every page from the second page onward. Now let's move to the second page footer. Again, there's no specific rule or law, just a best practice. I like to put the page numbers, and I frankly like to have them right justified in the footer. Again, Gestalt principles, which are standard human interaction principles. Eyes typically move in the Western civilized world from the top to the bottom, left to the right. So if we're starting in the upper left here, people read through a page. The last thing they're going to see is in the lower right. That's just the general direction that the eyes look based upon human nature. So we're going to go ahead and follow that. Now, if we go back to the header and footer tools, they give us a great little feature here called page number. Lets us select which area of the page I've already selected there. I actually just put my cursor where I want it, then select the current position option. Now you see we have a number of different options here. I personally believe that page 1 is great, but page 1 of 10 is better simply because we know in the context of the document where we're looking. Now, you can select any one of these. Obviously, I frankly will just select this page X of Y. Note that it says bold numbers. You don't have to keep that. You can manipulate this any way that you want. If you want it bold, everything. If you want it italicized, everything. It's completely up to you. I frankly will make it bold and italics for the page number, just a preference that I have. And here the page number will be listed first, and of course the total number of pages as we build out the document will automatically update. All right, so to recap, we completed our first page header and footer and our subsequent page header and footer. So we can go ahead and close out. Typically, if I'm dealing with a template, I'll go ahead and eliminate this page break. Now, don't be scared. We didn't lose the second page of information. It's still stored in Microsoft Word. We could save our file as our template and move forward. If I go ahead and insert another page break, you'll see that in fact this data still exists, page 2 of 2. And as I mentioned earlier, as we add pages, automatically the system's going to update the page numbering, as you can see down here. Now I'm going to go ahead and clear all those page breaks I just created to get back to our standard template. We'll save the file. And that concludes this first video of the guide.